Hello, everyone out there in YouTube land. Welcome back to Diego Knows. I, of course, am Diego, and today I want to just take a little bit of time to relax a little bit and let's talk about the movie that we both just watched. Okay, Thelma and Louise from 1991. I've never watched this movie before until I decided to review it for this. Now that I've finished the movie, I've already reviewed the movie. While the movie was going on. Now I just want to conclude everything. Okay. First of all, I give you a straight man's point of view here. That's what I do. Okay. So if you're easily offended, okay, if you're easily triggered, get the fuck out. I do not censor myself. I'm not politically correct either. I know I make mistakes. All right. But I'm just giving you a basic overall of what I thought about the movie and what it means. The reason I did this is a part of my Chic-Flick destruction that I started doing recently here. I reviewed every episode of Sex and the City. I reviewed the movies. I reviewed the new fucking piece of shit show that's out there. So I kind of like doing it. I kind of like diving into your area, because me personally, I like action movies and stuff like that, because I'm a guy. All right, but I delved into the chick flick realm with Sex and the City because I did love that show. Okay, so I decided I just go on with that. Okay, so this movie, Thelma and Louise, was an exception because, like I said, I've never seen it before. This is my first time watching it. Okay, now a lot of you guys out there caught a lot of mistakes that I made. Thank you, I do appreciate it. Okay, I understand. Okay, for example, one of my favorite movies in the whole world is Saturday Night Fever. Okay, I based my whole life on that movie. Okay, right. Okay, I've watched that movie 600 times, probably more. Okay, in my life. All right, I have the whole screenplay memorized. All right, so if you were to review that movie and you were to tell me something and you said something that was wrong, I would immediately correct you. No, that's not how he said. That's not how he said it. So I understand this movie is very beloved by women all over America and probably the world too. Okay, it was nominated for a lot of awards. It only won one award, best screenplay. Okay, and Silence of the Lambs picked up most of the awards that season, that Oscar season. Okay, but the movie was still very good. I'm gonna give it a pass. I did enjoy the movie, but I did have some problems with it. Okay, so here are my conclusion. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give you a straight man's point of view. I'm gonna start off with what I did not like about the movie, and then I'll go into what I did like about the movie. Okay, so to start off with, okay, what did I like about the movie? I think it was well acted for the most part. The leads were well cast. Okay, Susan Sarandon and Gina Davis were at the top of their game here. I've never seen Gina Davis portray a character like this. This was not her typical fucking tough, pretty bitch character that she usually plays. Okay, she was playing basically a dopey redneck housewife. Okay, who's not very smart. Susan Sarandon did great on this. A lot of her acting was done without her even talking. It was just the looks on her face that she gave. She motivated the plot of this movie. She was the instigator, the one that was fucking instigating everything that was going on, moving the plot forward. Okay, and I like that about her. So she's very very alpha. Okay, and I like the fact that despite the fact that she acted alpha, she was actually very self-conscious of herself and self-conscious of what the situation that was going on. Okay, more so than Thelma. Thelma was just a ditzy. She was just reacting to things, and not so much Louise. Louise was proactive. She was doing things. Okay, so I think it was very well cast. I think Harvey Keitel. If you see his work, he usually plays assholes and stuff, or guys that are morally ambiguous, like he did in Pulp Fiction. He played the cleaner. Okay, he played Jodie Foster's pimp in Taxi Driver. I mean, he was the vampire hunting Baptist minister in fucking in Dusk Till Dawn. So he's done a lot of stuff. You've seen him around. He's been around forever. Okay, I like seeing him play like the asshole type of guy because he's really good at that. Like he did in like Reservoir Dogs and stuff. But in this movie, he was a cop with a heart of gold. Okay, he really did care about these women. He was the only guy in this movie that gave a shit about these girls. He really was the only guy that cared about them. And part of the beauty of the story was like, well, how do you make these women? How do you sympathize with these women and want to be on their side, despite the fact that they're committing all these crimes? Well, the way they decided to do that was, okay, well, we'll make all the men around them all assholes, and that will automatically make them look good. And unfortunately, that's still a trope that's being played today. Okay, how do you elevate a woman in a movie? Okay, you make all the guys around her pieces of shit. Okay, that makes her shine more. By lowering all the men, the women are naturally higher up than them. Okay, so they get all the sympathy, they get all the rootiness, they get all the all the out of body experience shit. It goes to the women, and that was done here. Okay, but I'll get to more of that later. I don't think Christopher McDonald did a very good job playing Thelma's husband, Daryl. He played it like a cartoon character, like like that, like just this sniveling fucking piece of shit asshole. There was nothing subvertive about him. I mean, what he was is immediately what he presented to you. That's exactly who he is. He's not hiding anything back. He's not holding anything back. He really is just a fucking chauvinistic jerk, and there's no depth to him at all. There's no misreading him, okay? What you see is what you get with him, okay? And it sucks because he was actually engaged to Gina Davis at the time they were filming this movie. She had just gotten divorced from Jeff Goldblum, so she was engaged to him, and they called off the engagement during the making of this movie. Yeah, I wonder why. But anyway, so I think he did the best he could with the script that he was given, but I think Ridley Scott wanted him to portray Daryl that way as a cartoon character, just this stereotypical asshole husband that we've seen in almost every fucking rom-com that's out there. There was a guy just like this in fucking The Wedding Singer. That's the first one I can think of right now. But pretty much most rom-coms, there's always that asshole boyfriend. Think Bradley Cooper from fucking from Wedding Crashers. I mean, there's always just that fucking asshole boyfriend that the main character has to win over, win the girl over away from him, okay? And he's portraying that character in this one, all right? Brad Pitt was very early in his career. He was basically just a pretty boy, and he played the pretty boy in this one. He was a charming pretty boy, but that's all he was. He's a pretty boy. And of course, he's an asshole too. He robs the girls. After he has sex with one of them, he steals all their money, and he's a robber. I mean, he says it. He tells them, right? He actually tells Thelma that he robs people for a living. That's what he does. But she still didn't realize that or even enter the possibility that he might rob her too, despite the fact that they had sex. So yeah, but I thought he did well for what he was doing. I think this was the first time we saw him act with a Texas accent or something, or a Western accent, or the cowboy hat. He didn't act like a dope. He was basically a himbo, but this movie did launch his career because, like I said, a lot of women watched this movie, and a lot of them were talking about who was the one guy that they had sex with in the movie. Well, that was Brad Pitt. So that launched his career into the stratosphere, and he's still enjoying the benefits of that to this very day. Okay, and who else? I liked. I liked Michael Madison. He's pretty much good in anything that he's in, but they didn't do much with him in this movie. He was Susan Sarandon's boyfriend, but he was mostly just a plot device. We never really understood their relationship. We didn't understand why they were together. We didn't understand why he was in love with her. We didn't really understand any of that stuff. So we didn't really see him. The only time we ever saw him with her is when she's hiding things from him, and she's and trying to get stuff out of him. So they didn't really do much with this guy. He was basically a plot device. He was just there to fucking tell the cops where the girls are and where they're going. Okay, that's basically his whole purpose in the screenplay. Okay, but he acted it well. I wish they would have given him a little bit more meat. He only has one really dramatic scene. That's where he trashes the room, in front of his girlfriend. But then he immediately recovers and starts acting like a nice guy again. That was just such a switch that was just a switch in tempo right there. Okay, the tone just fucking it kind of threw me off a little bit. But for what he had, he did very well. Okay, that's why I thought about the movie, about the girls in there. Very very well acted. Okay, now I'm gonna start off here with what I didn't like about the movie. Then I'll end it on a positive note. What I did like about the movie. Okay, so what I did not like about Thelma and Louise. Once again, it's this typical chick-flick trope. Men are all shit. Men are all assholes. They're all rapists. They're robbers. Okay. They're spousal abusers. Okay. They're they're lewd. They solicit women in disgusting ways. I mean that's what they portray men as. Like I said, there's only one decent man in this movie, and he's the cop trying to catch them. Okay, and other than that, they're surrounded by these assholes. They don't ever meet any decent men in this movie. Okay, and just the world is not like that. And I understand these women probably had some hard childhoods, they had some rough moments in their life, and everybody comes across assholes, men and women, all the time. Of course they do, okay? But the world's not full of them, okay? That's not everyone that you meet, Okay, according to this movie, there's only one good guy, one decent human being for every fucking 5 assholes that are out there, and that's just not the way it is. It's more like the other way around. You got to remember that these women are very attractive. They're pretty. Okay, men are gonna be on their best behavior around them. Okay, they're gonna if they're attracted to these women, they're gonna want to make these women smile. They're not gonna try to fucking harass them or try to make them feel like shit or beat them up or rape them. They're not gonna do. Your typical man's not gonna do that. They're gonna try to impress these women if they get close enough to one. You know, they're gonna try to fucking make her feel good because they want her to like him. That's typically what would happen. Okay, they wouldn't be around there going like, "Hey, bitch, come over here, suck my cock." You know, they wouldn't do that shit. Like it's done in this movie, okay? I'm not saying that stuff never happens, okay? But there's not many guys that would act that way to a pretty girl, okay? There's a lot more guys that wouldn't act that way to a pretty girl, okay? Than guys that would. And that's what I'm talking about here. All the men in this are, even the fucking state trooper that pulls them over is an asshole, okay? So it's like, okay, it's just not believable, okay? Most men do not treat pretty women this way, okay? They treat them with respect, especially if they're attracted to them. Okay, and these are some attractive women. Okay, if I came across these women, I'd be nice to them. Okay, probably because I'd want to like fuck one of them, you know, or both of them, you know. But I wouldn't come across as this fucking cold-hearted fucking asshole, you know, just going around treating them like shit. You know, I wouldn't do that. All right. So that's what I didn't like about it. I didn't like the way the men were being portrayed. Same problem I had with Sex and the City. The way that men are not portrayed believably. They're cartoon characters. Well, it's the same thing here. Now, I understand not all the guys here have a lot of screen time, but the little bit that we do see of them, they are cartoon characters. There's no depth to their characters at all. What you see is what you get. Okay, the guy's a lewd fucking asshole truck driver. Yeah, that's who he really is. There's nothing behind that. You know, the cop is a fucking by the balls. I'm gonna fucking enforce my authority over you, but he's really a pussy inside. Okay, yeah. There's nothing much more about him beyond that. Okay, Brad Pitt's a dumbass fucking thief who likes to manipulate women by using reverse psychology. You know, and he's not smart. He thinks highly of himself. He thinks he's the great and powerful Oz. He brags about robbing people and how he does it. You know, he has no respect for authority. You know, like the cops or shit. You know, when they're asking him serious questions, he has no respect for authority about this kind of shit. He's a punk. You know, and he has no scruples as far as fucking another man's wife and then rubbing that man's face in it. Now, I'm not saying Daryl didn't deserve that. He probably did. I think he did. He was a piece of shit husband. Okay, but the fact that doesn't mean that JD had to do that to him, though. No, if he'd been more of a decent character, if he'd been more of a good guy, he wouldn't have fucking told Thelma's husband that he fucked his wife. He wouldn't have done that. But he not only did he tell him, he fucking played it off. You know, he fucking rubbed his face in it, okay, which is the worst thing you can fucking do, okay? So yeah, he was not a very likable character, okay? None of the guys were very likable, okay? They were all basically pieces of shit, and that really sucks because most men are not. They would not treat these women that way, okay? Most men are not rapists, okay? Most men are not con men, okay? Most men do not do these things, all right? So it's sad that they were portrayed men. The women come across in this movie are all pieces of shit, and in real life they're not. Okay, and hopefully most of you ladies know that's true. Okay, a lot of stuff that happened here did not need to happen. Okay, so that's the biggest problem I had. Is there was only one guy out of all these guys that we meet, only one guy that actually gave a shit about the protagonists in this movie, that cared about what was going to happen to them and was actually trying to save them from themselves. You know, stop them from making things worse or from getting more people hurt. Okay, he was the only guy that was trying to do that. So it made him stand out. It made him sympathetic, and thank God Harvey Keitel's a good actor. He could play that off. He could act that character out very believably. Okay, like even like the phone call he had with Thelma, where he fucking backed away from the other cops. Said, "Hey, listen, okay, I know what happened. Okay, I know what happened in Texas. I know why you're doing this." You know, he didn't have to do that, but his character did that because he cared. He understood these women. He was trying to save them. Okay, but they didn't want to be saved. They didn't want to be saved. And that is actually a good message. For all you guys out there that are watching this right now, you cannot save a woman from herself. Okay? The white knight shit does not fucking work. It does not fucking work. Okay? Just because you want what's best for her doesn't mean she wants what's best for her. Okay? Or she's going to accept you giving her what's best for her. Okay? Or allowing her to have that, you know? No, women are going to do what they fucking want to do. Okay? And you cannot white knight them. Okay, you cannot fucking save a woman from herself. You can save them, maybe, you know, I always use the analogy about the princess, the knight, and the dragon, okay? The dragon takes the princess hostage, like in that video game Dragon's Lair from the 80s, right? So your job is to go rescue the princess, okay? Well, maybe if you're a good enough guy, you can protect the princess, you can rescue her from all the threats that are out there, okay? But what you cannot do is rescue her from being the kind of woman that will put herself in a position to be kidnapped by a dragon in the first place. You can't rescue her from that, okay? And you can't rescue these women from their own actions, okay? You cannot do that, okay? So as much as I wish that these characters, because they seem very believable, as much as I wish that I could have saved them from their actions, the bottom line is they're gonna do what they're gonna do, all right? And you can't control anybody. Okay, I can't be controlled. You can't control people. You cannot control women either. Okay, I'm the #1 proponent of that. Let women do whatever the fuck they want to do and accept the consequences and accept the royalties as well. Okay, if they make right decisions. Okay, so it goes both ways. All right, and these women were on a course. They could not be talked down. They could not be talked down. Maybe they might have been if they had been separated from each other. Okay, but the fact that one would always stop the other one from giving up. Okay, and so they kept going through this suicide pact, okay, which is not the way you want to live your life. It's not the way that you want to be thinking, okay. It was very heartbreaking, as I mentioned in the last video. Okay, so yeah, so that's the biggest problem I had, okay, was the way the men were depicted in this movie, okay. They were not depicted very realistically. Like I said, they're all depicted as pieces of shit, and in real life, most men are not pieces of shit. Okay, now what was good about the movie? Oh, what did I like about the movie? Okay, well, I thought it was very well directed. I like the scenery. I like the fact that most of the movie takes place in a fucking desert where there's no one around, okay? Just like their lives, there's no one around, okay? These women don't have anybody in their lives. They're already living in a desert internally, okay? But they're together. All they have is each other, okay? And that's very well visualized in this movie, okay? That's how they drive fast, which means that they live fast. Okay, they smoke a lot of cigarettes. They drink a lot of fucking wild turkey. Okay, they're drunk throughout the entire movie, and that's a big element. If they had been sober during this trip, they probably would have stopped what they were doing and turned themselves in. They probably would have done that. Okay, but they were drunk. They were self-medicating throughout the entire movie. Okay, they were driving drunk. They were making jokes about shit that's not funny. You know, they were doing things that they wouldn't do if they had been sober. Okay, so the entire movie, they're drunk out their fucking minds. All right, which is a bad recipe, but it does explain a lot of their behavior. Why were they so melodramatic? Why were they always like having these mood swings? Okay, it's not just the excitement or the drama of what they're doing and what's going on with them. A lot of it has to do with the fucking alcohol. Okay, they're fucking drunk. When you're drunk, you lose your inhibitions, and these women most definitely did that. Okay. So I like the scenery, I like the context, okay? I understand who these women are. They have terrible lives. It's actually more heartbreaking. I'm not trying to make fun of them for you know, it's not their fault where they came from, okay? Or their financial circumstance. That's not their fault, okay? You know, so I actually feel pity for these women, but that doesn't excuse the bad choices that they made, okay? I like the fact these women really had nothing going on in their lives. They really didn't, you know? And whatever chance they had of changing their life, they didn't make those choices, and they can't make those choices anymore. That time, they missed that train a long time ago, and they're just starting to become aware of that. The life's not going to get better for them. So what do you do? You know, what do you do when you already know that life's not going to get better? You know, when you believe that life's not going to get better, okay? You either you burn up or fade away. You know, and they decided to burn up, okay? Because that's better for them. At least they can feel something that way. You know, so they wanted to go out in a blaze of glory rather than just grow old, you know, and depressed and fat. You know, like that old lady was when that scene where Louise looks at that old lady, you know, and it's like she's looking at herself in the future, you know, depressed, fat, you know, unfulfilled, you know, feel like they wasted their life, full of regret, full of remorse, you know. I think Louise probably had a lot of good guys in her life, but she fucked them over because she couldn't deal with her own hubris. She couldn't deal with the fact that she was probably raped a long time ago. And we don't know for sure, but we think that's what happened, okay? And that she cannot trust men. She cannot ever fully give herself to men, okay? She loved Jimmy as much as she was capable of loving a man, okay? But that wasn't enough for her to fucking be able to hold on to him or to keep her in the realm of the living, if you know what I mean, okay? That wasn't enough, okay? I think she loved him as much as she could, and she realized she can't love anyone, any man, as much as they deserve to be loved, and as much as can keep her grounded in the real world. You know, she can't do that anymore. I mean, if she probably had a lot of good guys in her life that just came and went because she couldn't commit to them or whatever. Or maybe she got fucked over earlier and she just decided to repeat this pattern. to attach herself to emotionally unavailable men or men that were too emotionally available, which turned her off. Okay, and she goes to the next guy. I think that's more or less what happened. She's got no kids. Okay, so she's responsible in that aspect, okay? But she's working as one of fucking many waitresses at a fucking diner, okay? And she's 44 years old. I don't know how old Louise is in the movie. They don't tell us, okay? But Susan Sarandon was 44 when she filmed this movie. So I'm just going off of that, all right? And Gina Davis was 35 when she filmed this movie. So, I think they realize that the best times of their life are gone now. They really are, okay? I love the way they portrayed that. They never actually say this in the movie. Okay, and I think that's the genius of this movie, is because a lot of their relationship between Thelma and Louise, a lot of their banter, a lot of the way they relate to each other is, even though they are best friends, they're their ride or die, literally, there's a lot about each other that they don't know. There's a lot of secrets that they keep between each other, and they do keep those secrets to the grave. They never do reveal those things, okay? I don't think Louise understood that there was actually a wild girl inside of Thelma that was just waiting to come out. Okay, because she acted like she was shocked at this. I don't think Thelma knew about the trauma that Louise had experienced earlier in her life in Texas. Okay, she did not know about that. She did not know that Louise had killed somebody before. She did not know any of this stuff. She barely knew her best friend, you could say. So it was like, there was a lot about each other they were discovering on this trip. Okay, and the fact that all that was done without spelling it out to you. You had to figure that. You had to be your own detective and pick up the clues to realize that. Okay, and also I think probably the best part of this movie was the fact that, and it's heartbreaking for me to say this, but I think the reason this movie was as good as it is, the reason it deserves the praise that it gets, was because the biggest thing for me was the relationships that the women have with themselves. And what I mean by that is that despite the fact these women keep spouting all these fantasies the longer they go on, but they're going to go to Mexico, they're going to get a hacienda, they're going to work at Club Med, we were drinking margaritas by the seaside, mamacita, that whole line right there. Okay, this is all bullshit, and it's sad because these women are all acting tough. They're all alpha bitches now. They don't need no man. They got guns. They can fucking shoot. There ain't no man gonna tell us what to do. Blah, 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 all that kind of shit. But behind all of that, you can see exactly, without them having to say it, it's very subtle, but you can definitely see behind all of that is that these are just two very, very scared little girls that have gotten in trouble and now they don't know what to do. Okay, and that is behind the performance. So all their fucking big ball talking, all their fucking bragging, all that shit. He called me B, right? I hate it when people call me that. Boom, that kind of shit. Behind all of that, they're really just fucking scared. They're scared, okay? And they know in the back of their minds, they don't want to say it out loud, but they know that death is coming for them. That they're not getting out of this thing alive. They're not going to get out of this alive. They've already crossed over the point of no return. They know that, but they don't want to say it. So what do? They act all tough. They act all badass. They sing along these songs. They smoke their cigarettes. They praise each other. They fucking, drink their whiskey, their wild turkey. They commit crimes. They do all this shit because they know that death is knocking on their door. And no matter what they do, it's going to open it. It's coming for them. And they know it, but they don't want to say it out loud. So they lie. They put on this mask. They start acting butch. They start, doing all these crazy things, okay? Because they know that they're not going to succeed. They're scared. It's so obvious. They're fucking terrified of dying. And the heartbreaking part of this, the real emotional core of this movie for me, is that they know they're going to die. And there's a part of them inside that doesn't want to. Doesn't want to die. And they're fighting that part of themselves with everything they got. With everything that they have available to them. Because they don't want to die. They don't want to go out in a blaze of glory. They're fucking scared. But they know what's coming. So rather than dwell on their reluctance to die, they would rather just convince themselves that they're going to paradise. We're going to be sipping margaritas by the seaside, mamacita. You know? And it's heartbreaking. It really is, because I understand that, you know, once you go underneath the layers of their bravado and their fears and their insecurities, you know, and you realize that all this stuff that they're saying to each other is just it's them fighting against their desire to stay alive. That's the part of them that's trying to fucking come out and go, hey, stop this, don't kill us. We don't want to die, we want to live. And they're doing everything they can to suppress that. Suppress it by not talking about it, by getting fucking drunk, by amusing themselves with other people, getting revenge on people, on men in general, because they blame men for a lot of this stuff, you know? This is their protest. This is their fucking, you know, this is their fucking standing in front of a fucking tank, like you've seen in China, that famous video, the guy stood in front of a tank and basically dared the tank commander to fucking kill him during the protest. So that's basically what they're doing. You know, that part of them inside that wants to live, that wants to fucking, you know, have a good life, that doesn't want to die, is fighting as hard as they can to get out, and they're suppressing it. They're suppressing that part of themselves that wants to live. You know, and it's so fucking sad. It's like, because I see this is what's happening. This is what's happening to these women. They won't want to die. They want to live. They just don't feel there's anything worth living for. So they decide to fucking convince themselves that they're doing the right thing. You know? It's just, God, it's so traumatizing. It's some good fucking writing. It is, you know? But everything they've done had led up to the point of driving off the cliff, you know, the suicide, you know? It's hard. You're watching someone struggle with their own desire to end their own lives, you know? And me personally, in my life, there's people in my life that have committed suicide, you know? And it's such a, God, you know, it just strikes close to home whenever I see movies that deal with this topic, because that's a very personal topic for me. Like I said, there's people in my life that have committed suicide. Okay, so I don't take this shit lightly. You know, these girls needed help. They needed to talk to somebody, and not to each other, because they're both fucked up. They needed to talk to like a professional. You know, someone who could have fucking, you know, helped them out. You know, they should have been part of a team, like a bowling team or something social where they could interact with other people other than each other. Okay, because they're both codependent, they're both narcissistic and depressive, they're both fucked up. You know, and when two fucked up people together don't talk to anyone else, they stay fucked up. Okay, their fucked uppiness feeds off of each other. You know, and that's what happened here. You know, if one of them had their fucking head on right, they would have stopped the other one. But neither one of them had their head on right. So they just kept going, you know? So I totally understand the Harvey Keitel, you know, character, Hal, the cop. You know, he could see all this that I'm talking about. He knows that this is a cry for help. He knows exactly this is what these women are doing, but nobody's listening. Nobody's listening, much less themselves. They're trying not to listen to themselves. That's why they're bullshitting. That's why they're singing the songs. That's why they're driving around. You know, that's why they're doing it. Because they're fighting against their own desire to stay alive. They're fighting it. And that's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. Because they lose the fight. You know? It's sad. I just don't think that the men that the men that are in this movie, all these asshole men, okay, I think there was a lot of good men that could have helped them. And I don't mean sexually either, okay? But I mean, there's a lot of guys out there that would have given a shit about them, you know? There's a lot of women out there that could have empathized with them, you know, if they just sought help, you know, but they didn't. They didn't, you know, and it ended tragically. It's sad. It's sad all the way around. It really is, you know, because I believe these women. I understood who these women were, and I understood why they were doing what they were doing, you know, and I understood the mental gymnastics they were doing to continue on to this fucking path of death. You know, I totally understand what was going on in their minds, you know, and it just, like I said in the last video, it made me just want to reach out and grab them and be like, no, stop. You know, stop this. You know, there's people that care about you. You know, you're not alone. You're not alone. And those of you that are suffering the same thing, you're not alone. You know, there's help out there. You got to go get it. There's no shame in asking for help. There is no shame in asking for help. Okay, we're not meant to do this whole life thing by ourselves. We were never designed that way. That's why we have friends. That's why we have family. You know, okay, to help ease the burden of life, because life can get pretty shitty sometimes. Okay, we're not meant to do it all alone. You know, we're not meant to do that. There's a way of looking at life that's completely different than yours that you're never going to understand until you meet people like that. And you're only going to meet people like that by meeting people. You know, you can't be locked up, you know, and try to do all this shit by yourself. That's not how life works. It's not how it should work. You know, but that's what these women did. You know, they had too much pride. They don't want to ask for help. You know, they don't want to see a psychiatrist or talk to a counselor, you know, or maybe just talk to other people other than each other. You know, no, they just decided to, you know, boom, just go on with their lives. And then they realize at the end that they don't have a life. They have a lifestyle, but they don't have a life. They have nothing worth living for, which is dangerous because, you know, when you've got nothing to live for, you got nothing to die for, you know, there's no one really that's going to appear in your world that is worth anything to you. You know, you don't even give a shit about yourself. How can you care about anybody else? See what I mean? So yeah, so it's a heartbreaking tale, but you know I understand it. Okay, like I said, a lot of the problems these women have is left unsaid. They don't say it. You got to pay attention to the clues to figure out what they're thinking. You know, this movie is clearly a case of a show don't tell. Okay, you know what these girls are thinking by their actions, not by what they say. Okay, which is very important. Anyway, so I'm going to give this movie a pass. Thank you for watching my review of this movie. I'm sorry it was so long, but I'd never seen it before, and I wanted to get all of it out as much as I could. Okay, I did enjoy this movie. I'm going to give it a pass. Okay, like I said, other than the way the men were depicted on this movie, that really pissed me off. But other than that, I think it was a very good movie. It was a good movie about friendship. It was a good movie about ride or die. The message might have been bad. I don't want to blame a movie for women committing suicide, but this movie did kind of glamorize suicide at the end. Like it's better to fucking, you know, burn up and fade away. They did romanticize that in this movie, and it's not. Suicide is never the better option, ever. Okay, they did that on a Netflix show called 13 Reasons Why. And they glamorized the suicide. You know, it was a way for her to get revenge on the people that fucked her over by killing herself. You know, she gets to talk shit about them from beyond the grave now. You know, suicide's never justified. There's never a good reason to do it. You know, so I hope that's not the message that women got. I hope nobody committed suicide because they were inspired to by this movie. Because if so, then you didn't get the point of the movie. The point is these women wanted to live. They wanted to live. They just didn't know how to live. They didn't know how, you know, and they could have. Anyway, so thank you for watching my review of Thelma Louise. I'm going to pick another chick flick movie to review and destroy. Okay, so thank you for watching my videos, and I will see you soon on the next one. Bye.